I'm the owner of Lagan's Gorgeous Cheese at East 40 Farm in Waldoboro. And I have a couple of questions for you. How many of you realized before coming here tonight that Maine has a really good cheese industry? Right. So the great thing about Maine is that there are people who are making cheese commercially, not just homestead, they're actually selling their cheese from as few as 4 goats on up to someone like Highland Farm who's making 1 million pounds a year, and there's everything in between. And there's a really good representation among the cheesemakers for scale tonight that are represented on your plate, which is pretty exciting. So I sort of fall kind of in the middle. I make about 10,000 pounds of cheese a year. The Opus 42 is my best known cheese with a caveat. So the cheese is called Opus 42. And it may look familiar to you. You may look at that and think, oh, it's cheddar, oh, it's Gouda. No, it is in fact Opus 42. It is an original recipe cheese. So when you make cheese, there's a process, right? So when you have milk, you are going to be changing its acidity. You're converting the lactose, which is the milk sugar, to lactic acid. That's your fermentation step. You're using a culture to do that. If you're making an aged cheese or a semi-firm cheese, you're adding rennet. That coagulates it, so it changes it from a liquid to like a custard consistency. Then you have your Little Miss Muffet step. So that's when you cut that, and you're releasing the curd and whey. The whey gets fed to pigs. If you're like most of the cheesemakers, I think, in this room, we all raise pigs and feed the whey to our pigs, which makes great pork. And then the curd becomes the cheese. So if you're making cheddar, like you had, I think that was the second cheese from Balfour, cheddar is an actual process of how you're handling that curd after you have drained off the whey. And you are manipulating that curd in order to increase the acidity. You might also be pressing a cheese, or like with Carrie's brie there, you're ladling the curd so that it stays as intact as possible to add that high moisture content. This is a lazy cheese. I take the whey out, I've got my curd, I salt the curd, I put it into a mold, which is this like 10-pound form that has holes around the outside. The whey drains off. The next day I unmold it, salt it again on the outside, and put it in my aging cave. And it stays there. I age this anywhere from 3 months to a year, depending on how busy I am. I've been busy lately, so this is only a 4-month cheese. This is also a natural rind cheese, so the rind is edible, but it's also an integral part of the flavor of the cheese. So if you want a true overall sensation of what the cheese should taste like, actually take a bite of it with the rind and the paste together. But also, I think I just saw somebody doing it. I haven't seen anybody sniffing their cheese. The aroma is as important as it is checking out the nose of your cider and your wine. Because remember, you're looking for a pairing, right? So you want that effervescence of the cider, because this is a nice high-fat cheese. It's also kind of a high acidity. Whenever someone says, I really like cheddar, what they're really saying is they like acidity. This is a higher acid cheese. So with the effervescence of this particular cider, it's freeing up those bubbles of the fat, so it's not just coating the inside of your mouth and making it seem heavy. It's also slightly nutty, and I think it's more on the hazelnut side, which I think also works really nicely with the flavor profile of this mixture of apples. And I love that he can say, I drove past this grove of apples, and that's what I picked. I love that about that. So this is a lovely pairing. This is a pasteurized cheese, only because I actually used to buy my milk from Carrie to make my cheese. And with the rhythm of how it was being delivered, I had to decide what all of my cheeses were from that batch. And so if it's in the United States, if you're making a soft ripened cheese, they have to either be pasteurized, or it's going to be, or any cheese has to be aged more than 60 days to be legal by the federal government. And I was making a lot of blue meringue cheeses, which were not aged 60 days. And it just made it that this cheese was pasteurized, and I just kept doing it. But it also means I can ship nationally. And I have.
So, for example, somebody could buy a cheese from you and ship it to somebody for, say, Christmas.
Yes.
Or Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Or any holiday for friends who like cheese.
And I also just want to make one other plug. Adventures in Cheese is a new book that's out. Tenaya Darlington is the author. She's from Philadelphia. If you use the social media at all, she is Madame Fromage. She's incredibly knowledgeable, and she's a lot of fun. This is a great book, but also side plug, I'm in it, and so is Crooked Face Creamery. And I know you alluded that there are some award-winning cheesemakers. There are cheesemakers in here who have won state competitions, regional competitions. Crooked Face just won a bronze medal at the World Cheese Awards a few weeks ago, and my rockweed, which I have with me tonight, won a gold medal last year. Thank you. See you.
It's